Howdy folks, and welcome to 2017. This is part 7 of the Looking Back at Past Planes series, where I look back at planes that I've owned and reassess what I think of them now. But before we get into that, I need to thank a few people who were very kind to me in 2016. Number one, I'm the last person that needs stuff sent to me, as I'm sure you're aware, but a few people have sent me a few things that I really appreciate. First of all, Pete Stanford from Dubbo sent me these awesome little 6-bladed props. I haven't actually yet come up with a project to use them on. That's coming very soon. Thanks very much, Pete, and I'm sorry it's taken so long for me to get around to doing something with them. Much appreciated. Number two, a big thanks to Matt Ogborn of Rag the Nuts Off. I'm sure you're aware of him. That mad Pommy who speaks some strange Bristolian dialect that I can barely understand. Matt made a very generous donation to this channel so that I could buy some beer, take my wife out to lunch and get some RC bits. Matt, you're an absolute legend. Thank you so much for your contribution. Love being in contact with you on YouTube. Keep up the great work. People go and have a look at Matt's channel. He's an absolute nutter. But even more than that, I need to thank you, Matt, for looking at my diving videos on YouTube. They're very unpopular. They're actually my favourite videos to make, but thanks so much for telling me that you've had a look at them. And finally, I have to say a big thank you to Andrew Crampton from Hong Kong. Andrew had a spare Acro Magnum kit, so he sent it over to me to let me build it and see what I thought of it. Here it is here. Very kind of you, Andrew. Thanks very much. But also, Andrew saw that video where I said I really like Bixler 2s and I'm annoyed that I can't buy it anymore in Australia. Andrew sourced some Bixler 2 parts in Hong Kong and bought them and sent them to me. Here they are here. I'm so happy about this. This is absolutely awesome. We've got all the bits I need to make another complete Bixler 2 or just repair my existing one as I destroy it. Andrew, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll get to fly together when you're over in Australia in the winter. Okay, let's get on with the looking back at past planes. So the next up in the queue was the Dynam F4U Corsair from GearBest. That was my first warbird. I'd never really been tempted by warbirds before. A lot of my buddies fly them and I like looking at them. I like the way they fly, I like the way they look in the air, but I'd never really been tempted myself. So the Corsair was very interesting. I don't have it anymore. I've given it away to someone else. The problem I found with warbirds is all about the landing and the retracts. The retracts just seem to be unreliable, too weak. They bend easily on poor landings. They freeze going up and down sometimes, and they just really annoyed me. And also, possibly because they're scale planes, the landing gear is in a scale position. It means that it's very easy to tip them over onto the nose on the landing, and you need like a perfect asphalt landing strip, which we just don't have. We always have sort of rough grass to land on. So warbirds are not ideal for my style of flying and the places where I fly. I did really like the Corsair. I was a bit nervous to start off with because I'd read a lot about warbirds being difficult to fly and torque rolling on takeoff and tip stalling coming into land and things like that. But I didn't have any problems like that at all. It actually flew really well, quite floaty. It was at a 1400 wingspan, so it was really nice to fly, but it was just a pain to land. All blue, all dark, so very easy to lose orientation. I never actually crashed it. All the problems I had with it were on landing and flipping over onto the nose. So good plane, looked good in the air, just not what I'm into really. Next up after that was the Ripple C plane from Banggood, and that's like a copy of the Polaris XL. It's the big deep delta wing boat fuselage style of plane, which is meant to be able to take off from water. It can take off from land as well, just sliding along on the bottom, which is a lot of fun. Great plane to fly, really fast, looked fantastic, handled really well too. The problem was coming to land it on water. It's not at all waterproof, and every time I tried to land it on water, I'd dunk it in, fill up the fuselage, fry the ESC. It took me about 3 or 4 attempts to actually get a successful landing and takeoff on water, and that was only when our flying field was flooded, and it was like a great big puddle I could fly in, really. The problem we have is that we've got lots of coastal water, which is never calm enough to fly from. Not so many lakes that I can have access to, or ponds that have nice open areas around the outside. Anyway, it was fun, but because of the lack of good ponds or flat water for us to fly from, that was another one that I gave away. I think I went through about 3 ESCs filling it up with water. So getting the seaplane triggered me to build a seaplane rescue boat. And this is what I came up with. This was a lot of fun. Put 3 motors on this, differential thrust on the back for steering, and motor facing forward for reverse. And that worked really, really well. I really enjoyed that. Good fun. I'd like to pursue that a bit more. This is just a displacement boat, so it just sticks down into the water. I'd really like to try putting foils on it to get lifted up out of the water, or produce a planing hull as well. That's more stuff for the future that I want to play with. But we always have the same problem, that we don't really have the access to nice ponds. So then the next up was the Dynam Spitfire, which was a very cool looking plane. I still have the wing. The fuselage has been thrown in the bin in many pieces. Spitfire was very cool because it's an iconic plane, looks fantastic in the sky, but suffered from the same problems as the Corsair. The landing gear, the retracts were not good enough. The landing gear wasn't far enough forward for our landing fields. I liked flying it because it was sort of light and more glidey than the Corsair. I could actually slope saw this one. And so what I actually did, because I had dodgy retracts, I took the wheels out, took the retracts out, and just made it into a pure belly lander, which was good fun. And I took it slope sawing a few times too, which was also good fun. But as I said, I'm not really into warbirds. They look cool. I like watching them fly. I like watching other people flying them. Just not my thing, really. Coming up next, we have the Zeta FX61 Phantom wing, 1.55mm wingspan, and the Dynam Trojan, and maybe the Volantex ASW 28 too. See you next time.